let's get to our match focus for this week. So it was a date between Kabwes Warriors and Red Arrows at the Nkoloma Stadium on Saturday afternoon. That's all Chintu Kampamba checking on Chisimbewe. Ona Jans, of course, is away doing a CAF Pro A license coach. So unprecedented stuff that we expect from the Red Arrows bench when he gets back. By leaps and bounds, the most qualified coach in the line. So let's look at the two selections that the two coaches made at the Nkoloma Stadium. That was Red Arrows versus Kabwes Warriors. So for Red Arrows, they actually made this selection 4-3-3 in attack. And in attack, you have Festus Mbewe playing the center forward, Ron Bruce Musakanya and Stanley Shimbi playing in the wide areas. In central areas, you had Mundia and Danny Sivanda. But to the Warriors' perspective, they actually went with a 3-5-2 formation with a back three. That is very unprecedented when it comes to Zambian football. But let's just look at the average selection. This is a team that that Ona Janza has not gotten new players for, but I'm sure he's confident that he can get some good juice out of this team. What did you make of that selection, Saluti?
Well, like you are saying, we are seeing something very unprecedented, new tactics, of course. As a coach, you really must be willing to try out new things, new tactics. If it has never worked before in Zambia, it doesn't mean that it cannot work. And if you look at Janza himself, he's an embodiment of, football knowledge, and so he would really want to try something new. The lineup, I think that the fact that, like you said, the fact that he has stuck on to these players, it means that
he has faith in them.
He has faith in them. There's so much juice in them that he can actually draw. So whichever the lineup on a particular day that you see coming from Arrows, you should be confident that this is the lineup which the coach himself wants. And if he had wanted changes, he perhaps would have requested. But I think that is what we can get on the day.
All right, so that's an interesting trend. The back three, Vespa, it's becoming fashionable. Some are playing it with a 5 in midfield, some with a 4. It's not completely new. Konkola Blades used to play that formation some time back. It's not new to Zambian football. That's truth be told.
Yeah, these systems we have, which each team has to play a system. Maybe you see 4-3-3, you see 4, maybe 2. You know, the system goes with a player. You know, the player, the one you see that this player can maybe run from here to there and come back. You know, like the 3-5-2. 3-5-2, you have 3 defenders behind, and then you have 5 on the midfield. That means you have 2 or on top there. Then it means the ones who are coming from the behind to overlap and help the attack. It's helping. It's good for attacking, because most of the times you find that when you are attacking, you are outnumbering the other team because of the way you are moving. Defending, it will mean again the other guy has to run back to his position. But when you are saying you are playing with 5 in the middle there, it doesn't mean when you lose the ball, then you have to wait for this guy who's passing from the other side, going to make crosses. Because I'm sure even for Red Arrows to use that system, it's the players they have. Bruce Musakanya there is a player who can go and come back. There is Shimbi. Shimbi has been doing that. He's a good player also. No wonder he was being called to the national team. It's because of his work rate. He can move. But the only thing I've seen with Red Arrows, I think they were delaying into attack. Why? Is because of the number 8. I think they had a problem with number 8 to join into attack.
Okay. Now, let's look at the duos of what it meant, the effects of the tactics. So the duos between the 4-3-3 versus the 3-5-2 that actually Chintu set up. So those are the duos on average, gentlemen. So for the center forward, you've got Festus Mbeo who leads the line. It's 3v1 there, and in the wide areas it's 2v1. But this is where the 4-3-3 becomes interesting. For them to create an overload or equality in the central area so that possibly they get certain things going, you expect Msakanya the number 10, Luwinda Mundia the number 8, Danny Sibanda the number 11, and Shimbi to actually push forward and actually supplement those two. And usually you want those 4 players to actually join the attack and create a numerical advantage without those 2 wing backs actually getting back into position. In the central areas, of course, it's 3v3. And of course, up top, because of the tactics that both coaches have chosen, probably in transition, Chinto was saying, it's going to be 3v1. Let me not play with 1 striker. Let me play with 2. So George Kwazi and Lamek Kafoya started up top there. And then you look at George Kwazi. Maybe he's the player who's going to play the bowler punch. Now, Vespa, if you just look at those duos up there, let's start with in attack. Already when Red Arrows saw that these people are playing 3-5-2, could it have affected the instructions to the back 4 that Sichone, Jimmy, please sit, don't go, because they outnumber us, or we don't want it to be a 1v1 situation?
Yeah, because if you look at the way Red Arrows played in the midfield, they could even see that Cabo Warriors had a lot of players in the midfield, and they were not even moving. And for them in defense to mark 2 defenders, it was not making sense, especially for the midfielders, because they were not helping even into attack. If you saw the way they scored that goal, when they scored, they could have forced to score another goal because of the way they started with the game. It forced them to get a goal. But how do we get this second goal? It's through the way we attack. But if you look at their attacking, it was not too forceful because of the way they were joining, the ones who are playing in the wings.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking, okay, Levi Zulu, right footer, playing left wing back. And I'm just thinking, okay, fine. He'll give you the bodies there. When defending, not a big deal. Perhaps the leg you use is not a big issue. But when you want him to overlap and ping in a cross for Kafaya and George Kwazi right there, I was beginning to think, okay, let's see how this one goes. That's why maybe the right-hand side was a little bit more effective with Alfred.
Well, Zita, in that particular case, I don't know. It depends on the swiftness of the player. I've seen sometimes where a left footer is put on the right or the right put on the left, and they are able sometimes to really overlap very well and be able to cut in and shoot with the stronger leg.
Yeah,
but in this particular case, yes, I think it never worked with the boy. As you know, coaches really need to study the material that they have.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, Vespa.
Yes.
Now, look at this. He plays a right-footed player.
And he's
yes. And I'm thinking, he's not allowed to cut in.
Okay.
So you've got Paul Simpemba and Frank Chibuye and Sidion Jerry in the central areas, and they're stuck. And however they attack, they need to maintain that poise in the central area. So there's nobody making that run into the wide areas because Levi Zulu is there. And you could tell there was very little activity. If you look at the number of fouls that Warriors won, were on the right as opposed to on the left. So coming to think of it, was it inspired to play 3-5-2 given a chance? Would you say that that was the most effective approach to beat Arrows from a Cow Warriors perspective?
I don't think so. Because what I wanted to say is, especially on the these attacking defenders, you know, when you play a 3-5-2, the attacking defender should be a defender who is quick. I think you've seen the Manchester, sometimes they use it. When you play that system, is to help you to attack and maybe allow you to get a lot of goals. But if you saw the way Warriors did, they tried it, it worked. Yes, at least we saw it crosses coming. Munyawa, I think you saw he dropped two of them from one of the wingers from the back. So it helped them. But after they scored, again they started defending. They brought in, I think, I don't know whether, sometimes in the pitch you find players themselves who say,
organize
since
themselves.
This one is coming, you also start coming. Stop, they change themselves. So the system itself, it will change again through the same player.
Okay, so anyway, let's look at Red Arrows in attack, shall we? So they drew first blood thanks to a Danny Sibanda strike. So Red Arrows in attack. Let's just look at what they were doing on average and give you an impression. So medium to high line. There you've got Bronson Chama, Webster Mlenga, and Jimmy Mlilo Chisenga actually virtually sitting. Then you've got Sichone, who's got a bit of leverage to go up, but Plodits got to that man on the ball, Paul Katema. The distance he kept was compact, that even in transition, even if he lost the ball, the team lost the ball, there was an opportunity for them to actually maintain defensive shape without being vulnerable. Of course, the long ball was the only outlet that Warriors had in that respect. But here's what happens, and perhaps this is what Kintu Kampamba would be saying to himself. I love the 3-5-2. Look at the 5 at the back. Look at the 3 in midfield. And Red Arrows are doing approach play. They're trying to look for space and passes, and we've basically denied them. And perhaps it explains why they go, and only goal they got was thanks to a direct corner by Danny Siband.
Well, yeah, because if you look at the formation, if you look at the player who is supposed to be the link between the defense and the midfield, if he is playing so deep, obviously your system just becomes so compact that you will not expand. Yeah, so you will not even attack very well. And like you are saying, the only way perhaps you will get goals is through set pieces. And that is corners, and because you do not have that much firepower to really penetrate your opponents using pace and speed, because you are really trying to be very cautious, and that is what we actually saw. He spoke of the number 8. He identified that perhaps they lacked number 8. I think the reason is that he didn't see the team attacking somebody to pick up the ball from this number 6 in or the defensive midfielder Paul Katema, to really connect with the strikers. So in that way you tend to see that perhaps it is the number 8 who has the problem, yet it is perhaps the kind of a system that you are actually using.
Yeah, and I'm thinking for all it's worth, well, in an attacking sense maybe it created other problems, but in the first half, if you look at that shape, Vespa, it was hard for Arrows. It was hard for Bruce to find space and try to run around. It had to take Arrows, their attackers, to change position. Now Lubinda Mundia, instead of coming from deep, is running up top, almost making it a 4-4-2. And maybe right there, the game plan has already changed in the pitch. And I'm sure the coach is saying, okay, let's see. Maybe they are right. Let's see where it goes. But it goes a long way in explaining why Red Arrows failed to get goals. They were simply shut out. No space for them to maneuver.
Yeah, for sure, Zite. I saw a lot of, movements with Red Arrows trying to, maybe getting a chance of maybe they can get another goal. But it was difficult for them to do that. Why? Yes, you said Warriors, they were a 5 in the midfield. And, when you are on the bench, sometimes I'm not alone. I know we are with other people.
Yeah, and there's pressure.
Yes, you could say that, I think we have a problem there where these guys, they have packed a Kamin pass in the midfield, and we are failing to penetrate. So you find other ways to say, okay, guys, we are failing to move. We have our number 9, yes, who can maybe hold on to the ball. We put a long ball, he can hold on. Festus is a good player. He has played for the national team. So we can use that one. Hold on to the ball, maybe we join him. We say who is quicker to join this guy. We say maybe Shimbi, you are at least faster, or Bruce, you are faster. Even Mundia is a quicker striker. We say, okay, you will keep on joining this guy, because he sometimes he doesn't lose the ball.
No,
he can only lose the ball when you are not joining him.
Yeah, but again, 3v1, remember, gentlemen. So let's look at Red Arrows. Well, they tried to remedy the situation. So Red Arrows tried to play out. And let's just have a look at what that meant in terms of the tactics, player movements, and that sort of a thing when Red Arrows attempted to play out from the back. And it was interesting to see what was happening, that every time Red Arrows tried to play out from the back. Now, this was what was happening, because Kabwes Warriors in the first half were not pressing high, so immediately they lose the ball, they drop back. Basically, the center circle was the line of confrontation. They just leave George Kwazi and Lamek Kafwaya to try to do the pressing game. So you'd see Kafwaya dropping back and trying to ensure that Paul Katima does not play there, but George Kwazi there remains almost leaving the line ready for anything in transition of any changeover or any breakdown. But look at where the wing backs are. Alfred and Levi Zulu, they drop back. And when they drop back, in that zone, when Red Arrows arrive in the Arrows half, in the last 2/3 of the pitch, they would have problems penetrating that area. But in the preceding half, that area around the center circle, you had a situation where it was 4 players taking on Jimmy Mulino. You've got Luwinda Mdea, you've got Paul Katema there, you've got Sivanda, and Sichone actually has a bit of leverage, so he moves forward, and as a result of Alfred not coming to close and bridge that space, they can exchange some passes.
Yeah.
And up to there, it was seemingly going okay. But again, when they get into that final third, well, problems. They find 8, 9 Warriors' bodies behind the ball. Simply can't score like that. Simply can't score, Mr. Saluti.
You really can't score, and that is why you see the concentration. If you are to get every you get the whole pitch and look at the concentration of the activities, you find that the ball kind of concentrates just around the center circle because of the fact that the midfield is really compact. That is on both sides. These guys also are not pressing high, and you are also not attacking, and so you will find that the ball will just be around the center circle. The only space was on on the wing. That was where some exchange of passes could be done. But like we said earlier on, the winger who is on this same wing is not fast enough to actually run with the ball.
It's actually a hardship.
Yes.
Think about it. That 3-5-2. When you are attacking, both of you go up. When you are attacked in transition by a quick attack, now one of you needs to be the 4th man in midfield. The other one has to be the 4th man in defense. By the time it gets to the final third, you need to be 5.
It's a question of It's a question of what are these 5 players in the midfield doing when we have the ball, because you cannot just put the people maybe five players in the midfield, then you don't even tell them what to do when we have the ball. When we lose the ball, yes, they are okay, they are marking, their marking is good, but the difficulty with the Kabwes Warriors, which they failed even to move. Yes, quite okay in defense, they were okay, what I saw, because the 5 we were not moving. That's why they couldn't get another. They could have scored, maybe even winning that game.
Okay, so now let's look at what it meant. Regards the first half, now Red Arrows were reduced to 3 shots on target, and it was basically transition stuff, but it was basically a holiday for Lawrence Mlenga. One of those shots on target came from a corner. For Kabwes Warriors, they managed to get 3 shots on target. They stung the palms of Danny Munyao 3 times, and it perhaps explains a very cagey game in terms of shots on target. Now, gentlemen, let's look at what it meant for Warriors in an attacking sense. They started playing long balls, and let's see what that meant tactically and otherwise, because you've got 3 in midfield and 2 up top, and the wing backs have actually refracted into a defensive position. Let's answer the question, why did Kabwes Warriors start playing long? It's very important for us to probably put closure to this one, because again, what we're doing in transition and in other areas was proving to be a thorny problem. So let's just get that illustration. Look at that, gentlemen. The 5 at the back, the 3 in the central midfield areas. They're doing their job. And the line is somewhat a little bit fragmented. There are pockets of space between Paul Katema and the defensive line, which is 3 at the back in principle. But here's what happens. So you win the ball in that area. Look at their shape. There's nobody in the half space. There's nobody in the wide areas. The 2 Warrior strikers are actually playing right in the middle of the 3 defenders. And they don't look like the technicians who can take them on. Kafwai, yes, I want him in the 18 because with the flighted ball, he's got a chance of winning it, even against the tallest of defenders, Bronson Chama. Of course, they know each other from his days at Kabwes Warriors, but it also meant that George Kwasi had to be sacrificed in the first half. But basically, when you start playing like that and you're doing a medium press, it just explains what happened for Kabwes Warriors. Now, by the time the game was coming to an end, the goal attempts were only 7, Vespa. 7 goal attempts, 3 in the first half. You started playing better in the second half, but you only managed to get 3 more shots on target.
That's why it comes again back to our strikers. Because sometimes you also think of what is happening in the midfield. You know, sometimes we see and we talk about players who play from Europe. We watch them on the TV. How did he do that? How can he get the ball from maybe from the center circle, run with the ball, and maybe have some power, of course, to shoot and get a target of getting a goal. But for our strikers, if you've seen, when I was watching Arrows, I was even asking my colleagues to say, but what is happening with our strikers? Because the game has started, it's almost maybe 10-15 minutes have passed, they are not shooting on goal. But what is a job of a striker? Of course, is to shoot and get a goal. But no wonder you are asking me that how many shots, and maybe you say maybe 7 shots for the whole 90 minutes. It means you are not serious.
It's a problem.
Yes, we have a problem.
Does that worry you? And maybe it goes a long way, Salute, in explaining why, for example, we don't get our strikers into 20-30 goals in a season, because it's very cagey. And again, it's very hard to teach decision making. Which one is the best pass to choose for a player on the ball?
Yeah, but you know, a striker is only as good if he's being fed. And so if you have midfielders crowding the whole of the park there, and in terms when you are attacking, they don't know what their role is. Their role is to move the ball from the center zone or from the back, and to make sure that the ball reaches your main striker there. Like in this case, if you have a player like the topman for Arrows, Festus, you know that man is very good when he's receiving the ball. If you just have somebody to have the ball reach him, he is able to keep the ball and create space. If you remember very well, when he was at Nkana used to score many goals because he would get the ball and he would create space for Sate and Sate would capitalize on that and score. But I don't want to blame the strikers. It's a system. If your system is
but
compact,
the service was not coming.
Yes,
and
if the system is compact,
Festus didn't manage to get a shot.
And so sometimes that is why now we are talking about you want to play long because you think that that is the only way
He
the
can
ball
hold
is
on
going
second
to...
ball, maybe
Yeah.
get something out of it.
Yeah.
Let's just have a look at Red Arrows in attack after they made the substitutions, because it had a telling effect on the game. So in the second half, the basic principle change was that this was happening now, gentlemen. Yeah, now just look at the spread of the Cow Warriors players. Yes, they have the 5, the 3, and the 2 up front, but because they're a little bit more positive, they are pressing a little bit more because they are down. They are looking for a goal. It created some contest. But look at Kombe, who, when he gets on the ball, it's hard to get the ball because Warriors are 5 at the back. It's 3v1. He doesn't appear to be the technician that is going to wriggle past those 3 players. So he tries to come short. And when he comes short, he finds Mr. Simeon Jerry on duty and says, Mr. Kombe, today is not the day that you should score. You've got a winning bonus to protect. Anyway, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the changes, I liked the way they made their changes. You know, thinking sometimes when you make a change on a player, especially sometimes in the midfield, you are trying maybe to push forward for you, maybe to get a goal. I'm sure we sometimes see in Europe there are players like, for example, Ozil. Sorry, my
Is your favorite?
You know, they score goals as they are midfielders. Ozil, Fabregas is a midfielder. Toure is a midfielder. But if you look at how many goals have they scored, then ask yourself as a striker, how many goals have I scored? And for me to change myself to be what I want to be, maybe like you, then I miss. You know, their changes were quite okay, but I was disappointed with the other change for Red Arrows. They were at home, and you make a change in 2 minutes, the game is finishing. It was in added time.
Yeah, Mumba came on.
Yes, and I think that player, sometimes when he comes in, maybe you give him 15 to 20 minutes. He's a dribbler, and he's a fast player. Sometimes give him chance, give him time, so that he can prove himself. Because if you give him to, he's too young.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you, gentlemen, probably in one way, would you love to see Cow Warriors continuing to play the 3-5-2?
Of course, no. You know, sometimes...
You wouldn't want them?
No.
What do you think suits them?
Anyway, for that system, I'm sure sometimes we play these systems according to the games we are playing. You know, sometimes I cannot use the same 3-5-2 with Zesco, according to the way they play. So we can't. You can't be going. If you are number 2, you are number 3. You know, such systems we put on. You know, so for Warriors, maybe that system they used it because they were away. You know, sometimes you just say, okay, let's just keep a point. We go back with a point. Then we'll go back to the drawing board.
So, would you like to see Warriors continuing to play that system?
Yes.
I also want to do a census from Cow Warriors supporters, but
Yes, I
you'll
would.
be neutral.
Yes, I would. Look, Chintu is well trained. I think he trained in Germany. And, you know, for me, I like people who try things. You know, if you want to remain with the same system, use the same system from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, the chances are that you'll be getting the same result. So it's good. He tried to use that kind of a system, and in fact he was away, but he never really, you know, was not scared of using that system. So perhaps they can perfect it. They can perfect it. I think that I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, so let's see how that one goes. This is Zambia's Premier Analysis Show, live on QTV and QFM. We'll be back in a jiffy as we begin to look at the debt of the weekend. Zesco United visiting Kitwe to take on Nkana Football Club.